So we have others who hopefully will show up, but I'm going to start, before we get into the guided practice part, by doing a little screen sharing. And it might be disorienting to those who come in later, but I started playing around with live captioning in Google Slides yesterday. So I do have some slides, and I just wanted to go into full screen. I should actually have pulled this up on a second monitor, but let me go into presentation mode. And so you should all see the first slide for this little mini slide deck. Do you see that I'm rolling over the toolbar for Google Slides in the Zoom window?
Yes, we can see that.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. If you turn on Captions, then Google Slides does a live captioning of what you're presenting. And my experience has been that it's pretty good.
Oh, so you just talk and the words come out?
Yeah, I'm just talking, and it is captioning on the fly. This is, of course, all machine learning. It's voice recognition. It's no one is sitting at a keyboard listening to the conversation and typing in the captions, which means it's free. So this is kind of nice. If I do live sessions for my online course in the fall through Zoom, normally I wouldn't go full screen when I'm doing presentations, but you have to be in presentation mode to activate the live captioning.
Keith, can I ask a dumb question? But how did you get to where you are? Like, where are you? You're in
Okay, so yeah, we're in Zoom. Okay, so I am going to share my screen. And so now you see, I just shared my whole desktop, so you can see all the crap on my desktop. You can see.
So you're in Google Docs presentation?
Yeah, so I don't use PowerPoint that much. I use Google Slides, but there is apparently a live captioning functionality for PowerPoint presentations as well. So I've got my 3-slide presentation here, and if I go into present mode, just like you would go to slideshow mode in PowerPoint, you've got the toolbar down here for advancing the slides back and forth. Google Slides has some nice other interesting audience tools where you can have people who are following along, post questions. The questions, I think, can be voted up and down. And you can get a pointer, but you turn on captions, and then everything that you are saying automatically, in a fraction of a second, shows up in these captions at the bottom.
Can I ask you a question, Keith?
Yeah.
I've used PowerPoint for years, and now that you're pointing out the functionality of Google Slides, people can post questions that I'll see in my slide presentation, as opposed, because it's hard to kind of monitor questions in a chat on Zoom when you're teaching and like trying to do everything at once.
Right. I haven't done this myself, or if I did, it's been a long time. You'd create your Google Slide presentation.
Yeah.
You would get a share link that would allow others to view it on their computers.
Mm-hmm.
And then, again, I haven't done this, so I can't tell you the specific steps, but you would turn on the ability for audience questions to be submitted.
So do you feel there's enough additional functionality in Google Slides from PowerPoint that it's worth me exploring? in this new environment?
It is a new environment. We, in the TLTC and with many of the other groups I collaborate with, are living in Google Docs all the time anyway, because of the collaboration aspects.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always putting up a Google Doc for to share to Marie for us to gather notes on what Moodle planning we need to do, things like that. And since I'm in that environment, I kind of wish that, I mean, a number of the other SUNY campuses are Google app for education campuses. And so there are, official campus-based Google accounts. And then, on those campuses, as a faculty member, I would know that all of my students obviously will have access to this Google Doc that I want to share to them. Now, I'm pretty sure Office 365 has some similar kinds of collaboration features. I don't know that we've done much, or if many people on campus have done much in that environment. Even on campus, when I'm on a group and we're talking about doing some collaborative work, it's somebody saying, well, who wants to set up a Google Doc and share it? So I'm not sure why we just don't go wholesale. But anyway, that's not the focus for today. The focus for today is to make sure that you all have gone through the steps to access your VoiceThread account through your Moodle course, create a new VoiceThread, upload slides, comment and annotate on those slides, get those recorded so that you've got essentially a recorded lecture that you can make available to your students in an asynchronous format. So for example, you're still meeting during your Zoom times, but you want your students to actually preview your VoiceThread lecture ahead of time so that they've already got kind of the basic background of the material, and then you can spend your Zoom session time not just lecturing at them again, but doing more active discussions or critical analysis or things like that. So I will feel the session is a success today if at the end of the hour you've all gone into one of your Moodle courses, set up a connection to your VoiceThread account, set up a VoiceThread, and shared it in one of the different formats of sharing that VoiceThread presentation back to your course. This just shows you what my VoiceThread home screen looks like, and first thing we'll do is to make sure that you all have an easy way to get to your VoiceThread home, and then you can see, if it's not covered by my Zoom windows, that there are some various controls, various account settings, and a nice clickable pencil here for creating a new VoiceThread. So I'm going to actually get out of the presentation here, and the live captioning will go away. And let me stop sharing for a minute and see if there are any questions. So everyone has obviously you've got a Moodle space that you can work with. Even if you're not ready to do something permanent for your fall class, there's no reason why you can't work in any one of your fall Moodle spaces. Because what we're doing is nothing going to be necessarily permanent. And hopefully you all have some slides that you want to be the format of your first, if it is your first VoiceThread. And hopefully your computers have mic or webcam. Well, I see that those of you who have your cameras on are on a computer that's got a webcam, so you should all be set. So with that, let me have you go ahead and log into Moodle and go to whatever course you want to go to. I'm going to start sharing my screen again so that I can go into my sandbox and walk you through some of the steps that will get you where we want to go. Okay, so I'm in my Moodle space. I've got editing.
Okay.
Okay. Hopefully you're in one of your Moodle courses. I've got editing turned on, so turn editing on if you don't have it on already. And let me just show you before we walk through the steps. I've got in this, given all the different VoiceThread workshops I've done over the past several months, I've got a bunch of different kinds of VoiceThread activities in here. We will not go through all of these, but I do want to point out this VoiceThread Home is one flavor of VoiceThread, and I would recommend everyone just stick one of these in your course, even if you don't show it to your students. But if you've got it there, this is a VoiceThread activity that just sends you directly to your home page at VoiceThread. When you add a VoiceThread activity and connect to VoiceThread through it, VoiceThread on their end will create an account for you if you've never been to VoiceThread before. It will create a course space for you at VoiceThread to match up and be corresponding to whatever course you're coming from in Moodle. And so this VoiceThread Home, I'll just click on mine and then I'll walk through the steps for letting you set up yours. When I click on this, it's just gonna pop open VoiceThread in a new window. And here you see what I was showing you on that slide before. I'm at my VoiceThread homepage. You can see all of the voice threads that I have either created or have been shared with me, or that are the tutorials that VoiceThread makes available. So once we get you set up with your VoiceThread Home, you can come here, you can click on the tutorials, you can go through the VoiceThreads tutorials, you can focus strictly on the voice threads that you've created. There are some, you won't have the ability to manage the whole Purchase College VoiceThread account like I do, but you can go to your account information. If you ever want to use the mobile app, which is a very nice way actually to mark up and annotate and comment on your VoiceThread slides. You'll need to know what password to use with your purchase email in order to get into there. So we won't necessarily talk about that today given the time, but if you're interested in using mobile app, just get in touch with us. So let me show you the steps of setting this up and then have you set that up. If you go to wherever you want this VoiceThread Home, and you might, since it's not going to be attached to any particular week or topic of your course, you want to stick it up here at the top of your course. Click Add Activity or Resource, and it's alphabetical, so VoiceThread's going to be down here at the bottom. You click Add. Whenever you add a VoiceThread activity, you're setting up the potential to make it any one of those 6 different flavors of VoiceThread. So I'm going to call this VoiceThread Home again. But just doing that does not tell VoiceThread that it's actually going to, that's what you actually want. So when you initially set up a VoiceThread activity, it's going to be what are you going to call it? And then you also have to decide whether or not you want to accept grades from the tool. And for what we're doing today, you're going to want to turn this off because you don't want a gradebook item showing up for allowing people to go to their VoiceThread home space. I mean, that's just not a gradable activity, right? So it's got a name. I've unselected accept grades from tools. I may, if I want this to be just a convenience for me to get to my VoiceThread account, because I'm going to be creating VoiceThreads and I'm going to be sharing with my students, but I really am not planning to have my students create VoiceThreads. You can hide it or you can show it. So if I click Save and Return to Course, that has created this VoiceThread activity, but at this point, VoiceThread doesn't know what kind of an activity it is. First time I click on it as the instructor, VoiceThread is going to ask me, well, what kind of a VoiceThread do you want? And I'm just going to come over here and click Home. And I get this success. I can go back to my course. And now when I click on this link to my VoiceThread home, it's going to function just like the other one. And it's going to take me to my VoiceThread home. So the first thing I want you all to do is in your course, turn editing on, go to add an activity or resource, select VoiceThread as the activity, give it a name, and say, don't accept grades from the tool, and click Save. And let me know when you've gotten through that part. And also, I'm going to set this session up so that all of you as participants can share your screen. So if we do need to look at someone's screen, you should be all set to do that. And if there are any questions as you're going through this, just turn your mic on and ask them. The idea is to get you set up with this connection to your VoiceThread account.
Hey Keith, it's Mehdi. I have a quick
Hey, Mehdi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Yours says home, but did you just write that into the activity name?
Yeah, I just put that as the name. You could call it a VT connection. You could say, click here to go to your VoiceThread home. Whatever name you put in for the activities that you add to your Moodle space are really whatever makes sense for you and your students.
Okay.
So, but I mean, the point is, Mehdi, just calling it VoiceThread home was not sufficient to designate it to be actually that home connection. I had to create it, save it, open it the first time, and then select the home option. So where's everybody at? I mean, I don't want to go too fast, but I also, yeah, Nancy.
I'm totally lost. So,
You want to share your screen?
no.
Okay.
Anyways, I'm gonna go and do this again later.
Keith, if I've never been on it before, I just need to enter my purchase password, right? I don't know, I don't have a verification password.
You shouldn't have to enter a password. If you're in, are you in Moodle? You're in your Moodle course.
I was, do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm not a big Moodle user, so, okay, let me go back to where you are.
So when I click that home link, Keith, it automatically created an account for me in.
Yes, that would have been I guess that probably would have been the first time that Voicethread knew about your purchase account coming in through the LMS.
Exactly.
So go back to the main page of your course. Yeah.
Okay, so I added VoiceThread practice, but I didn't come to the screen where about not grading it. I just hit save.
Okay, so select edit from the side there and go back to edit the settings. And now under privacy, if you expand privacy out, you can unselect accept grades from the tool.
That's what I missed. Okay, I'm just writing it down. Okay.
And then click save and go back to course.
Okay.
Now click on the activity itself.
So right here?
Yep.
Okay, so this is where it came up and asked me about email. I've never used
Oh,
it before.
this is interesting. But they're already saying that you have an account there. So, but you probably don't know the VoiceThread's password for you at this point.
No.
I think you just need to click on verify about email.
You'll get an email from them, which will allow you to reset your password with them, and then you'll be able to get through there here again.
Okay, I'll hit stop share, then come back and
Okay.
for that. Thanks.
Did anyone else get that account verification screen or?
No.
Okay.
And Joanne, are you in good shape? Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again. And I'm going to go to my VoiceThread home. And again, as I mentioned before, your first step in creating a VoiceThread would be to click on this create. And then when you have the option, you basically add media. You could add your, you could create slides one at a time by uploading, specific pictures or going to different media sources. But if you already have a slide deck of a presentation, you can go upload that from your computer. And here's I've got a PDF of that 3-slide Google slides that I started off with, and I'm just going to select that. Click open that. You can see kind of in the background that is going through the slides, processing them one by one. Here I've got an opportunity to provide a title. Guided practice example. You can do a description if you want. You can, if you eventually develop dozens and dozens and dozens of voice threads, you might want to tag your voice threads so that you can find them more easily. You can specify playback options. Do you want your students commenting on the voice thread or not? I mean, if it's an assignment when you're requiring them to comment, you can specify, I want them to be able to use their microphone or to put on a text comment, or maybe I'll let them do the webcam as well, but I don't want them to upload a file for commenting or to call in on the phone. If you are using the voice threads for having conversations around different media, you can not only allow students to comment, but you can allow them to reply to each other's comments. But you actually have to turn that on. If you don't want students adding slides to your presentation, or if you don't want people downloading your materials, you can turn those off. And you can control how quickly the presentation will go from one slide to another. And I'll go ahead and click save. So let me pause there to see where people are at.
Hey Keith, I'm uploading, this is the first time I'm doing it, but I'm uploading a PowerPoint presentation.
Yep.
Will that work? Because it's just been processing for a
It
while.
will work. I mean, how many slides in your presentation?
Oh, I don't know, maybe like 10, 15. It's not
Okay, so it may take a while to chug through. It's basically, and I should mention this as well, and that'll give people time to get caught up as well. If you use, say, animations in your PowerPoint where you've got bullets flying in one at a time to build up a slide, that will all be flattened.
Okay.
So you need to think of, if I were going to take my PowerPoint presentation and export it as a PDF without all of the PowerPoint transitions and animations, it's just going to be a series of pages, essentially. You can still get that same effect in your voice threads. Say you've got a slide where you've got 4 bullet points. Susan?
I'm so sorry. I was talking to my son. I didn't realize my camera and my
Mike wasn't on, but I saw you. Okay. So yeah, if you got a slide with 4 bullet points on it, and in PowerPoint you have them come in one at a time, I would create a copy of that PowerPoint where I remove the animation off of those 4 bullet points, and then copy that slide 3 times, so you've got 4 copies of it. Delete everything but the first bullet on the first slide, delete everything but the first 2 bullets on the second slide, and so forth. That way, when you import that into your VoiceThread, it comes in as 4 sequential VoiceThread slides where you've got, just the first bullet on the first slide, the first 2 bullets, and so forth.
So the total opposite of what I've done, because each of these slides has like several bullets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where did you get to the settings? Because it's uploaded everything now. Where did you go to change the?
Okay, so let me go back to share my screen. So if I come back and to my home screen and click on edit, yeah, it's going to just bring me right back here. If I click edit here, yeah, okay. So you see this little edit by the title of your voice thread. You can click there. You can change the title. You can come here to adjust the playback options. If you want to get fancy, you can put cover art on your VoiceThread presentation. Given the way that we're accessing VoiceThread through Moodle, you don't really need to have a flashy cover art for your presentation. And then just go ahead and click save. When you are in editing here and you go look at the options, you can get to the playback settings here as well. Just takes you right back to that page. If you if you had a voice thread from the spring semester that you wanted to make a new copy of because you want to keep your original copy, but you want to make some changes for the fall, you can copy your voice thread here. You can also do that from your home screen where you have the ability to make a copy or to delete it here. Okay. So that is creating a connection to your VoiceThread home. And Susan, are you there yet?
First of all, I apologize. I wasn't shushing you guys. I was shushing my kids.
That's okay.
I forgot I was on camera and with audio.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I missed your comment. If my PowerPoint presentations have animations in them, meaning like bullets flying in, words popping in, that's not going to transfer to VoiceThread. I have to do them as individual slides.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
So VoiceThread, just like if you were converting it to a PDF, you're converting it to a VoiceThread, you're exporting your PowerPoint to any number of other situations. Your PowerPoint slides are going to get flattened. Those animations really only work within PowerPoint.
Okay, so I did upload a presentation. And
Okay.
I see here, I see each individual slide.
Yep. So that's, creating a VoiceThread is getting your media in. So maybe I've got these three slides that I uploaded from my presentation. I can add additional media. If I go here and go to media sources, I can just go to New York Public Library and pick a few of these to import into my presentation. And so now I've got 6 slides. You can see VoiceThread is processing each one of those. On the slides, I don't usually worry too much about this, but you can actually name individual slides if that helps you to organize your materials. You can drag and drop to move slides around. If I decided, well, I do want the Norse ruins here, but maybe I don't want the view from this slide, I can delete the individual slide. And now I've got the backbone for my presentation. I've got the slides in. That's step 1, is adding the media. Step 2 is doing the commenting. And so you can, if I click on the commenting, I will be taken to a view of the presentation where I'm looking at one slide at a time. Down here in the lower right-hand corner, there is the ability to pop up and look at the whole presentation. If I want to go back to the first slide, I can click on it. I'll come back here. As the instructor, you don't want to just give students your slides. You want to be able to talk about them, and you want to be able to maybe draw on your slides to point out things. So if you see kind of grayed out down here at the bottom, you roll over, you can, as the instructor, okay, for this example, I said we could do text commenting, we could do microphone, or we could do webcam. If I'm going to actually close this down, go back to playback options. If I actually go ahead and select all of the allowed comment modes and go into comment, it would now look like, I would have the ability to do a text, to phone in a comment, to do a record a comment, to do a webcam comment, or to upload a file.
See?
Yep.
That's giving you the ability to do that, not your students.
That is giving me the ability to do that. And also, if we look at the playback settings,
So where you put like allow comment methods, I took that to mean students commenting on the presentation, not your creative.
it will also control what you can do.
Okay.
And you can, depending on how you present this, you can allow students to comment or not. If you're turning off commenting altogether, or if you're wanting to allow commenting, but you want to make sure that you look at the comments before they get released, you can enable comment moderation.
Mhm.
So again, if I come back in here to comment, I'll just do a record a comment. I get this little countdown. And so here is the first slide of the presentation. Title slides on presentations tend to be pretty boring, but I'm going to use this as an opportunity to select a pencil. And maybe I don't want to write in red, maybe I want to write in green here. And then what we're talking about is how to create a voice thread. We're not talking about how to create an H5P activity and so forth. Talk about whatever you want to talk. I will babble on for just a minute because look to see what's happening to your annotation or to my annotation.
Okay.
See how it gradually fades away. So you can use this. You can't use this really as permanent commenting, but you the way I think of it as you want to use the annotation tools to highlight things, and then if you had a complicated slide and you were talking about it for a long time, you would eventually, it would get very, very messy, and all of the previous arrows you put on would kind of get in the way. They kind of go away on their own account. And stop recording. It's going to upload it. I can hear it. You probably are not hearing it through because I didn't select to share the computer audio, but I'm listening to my comment. I click save. And now it shows up here as a comment that has been attached to this slide. And if I or a student plays the slide from the beginning, and whatever annotations you've done will be in sync with your comment and so forth. If I go to the next slide and this time do a webcam, get the same kind of thing, but now you've got more of the talking head kind of view. So I am recording now. As we've talked about, we've got these 5 tasks that we're going to be doing today. We have so far done this one, and we've done this one, and we've done this one, and we're working on this one. So pretty good. And I'll click stop recording. And as soon as it gets uploaded, I can click save. And now when the I would recommend using webcam sparingly. If you look at studies, actually seeing you talk about the slides is not as important as hearing you talk about the slides, obviously. And so, the more you use webcam commenting, the more that taxes students' bandwidth. And if they're on a data plan where they have to pay, for the, their minutes of connection, that has an impact as well. I know some faculty who, will want their students to comment on their slides, and they will do, the instructor will do recorded comments to, set up the slide, what they're talking about, but just have their students do text comments. And let me actually go to the third slide, and adding a text comment is just pretty straightforward. And this obviously is the least bandwidth option, and it shows up as a text slide, a text comment, and When there are multiple instructor and student comments, they will all be kind of lined up around, and you can look at any one in particular. But that is, that's step 2. Any questions about that? So hopefully you've got a connection set up to your Voicethread home space. You can click on Create to import media for a new Voicethread presentation. You can use the commenting and annotating tools to essentially pre-record your lecture in a way that you can share it to your students so that they can view it asynchronously whenever it fits into their schedule, as long as it's in advance of when you want them to be able to work with the talk about it in class or whatever you want to do. Step
Keith,
3. Yeah, go ahead, Mitty.
Sorry, quick question. So Maria answered my question about the phone, but what does the arrow do on the comment feature? Is that just to upload your own comment, or I'm confused by?
This one?
Yeah.
This would upload a file or upload a comment. So if you recorded an audio sample on your phone and transferred it to your computer, rather than phoning it in, it would be an audio file here, and you could upload that and attach it as an audio comment, as a recorded comment.
Okay, thank you.
The downside of that is that, I mean, if you recorded a 2.5 minute recording of you talking about that slide, you can upload it as a file and it would be attached as the comment, but you would not be able to sync annotations to it, right? You have to kind of record annotations and a recorded comment at the same time. Okay.
Thank you.
So step 3 would be to share, and you certainly can do sharing through this option on the individual Voicethread. It will tell you who has access. Right now, it is private, and it's only shared with me. I could make it so that anyone who comes to Voicethread and finds it can view it. But that's probably not the best way that you want to share your Voicethread lecture presentations with your students. There is a basic tab where, if you want, you can copy this link and put the link in your Moodle class, or send the link out to your students as a Moodle course announcement, so that they've got a link to click on in their email, then just takes them straight to the presentation. But there are better ways to incorporate the Voicethread into your course that we'll see in just a minute. If you want to embed your Voicethread somewhere, you can do this iframe embed code, and you could certainly, if you wanted your Voicethread presentation to show up as an embedded video on a page in your Moodle course, the same way that you can embed YouTube videos, this is what you do. The other option here is the secure option, which basically would list all of the course spaces that Voicethread knows about, because these are Moodle courses that you have attached to Voicethread by having Voicethread activities in them. So I certainly could select my sandbox course here and share it securely with individual students or with the course as a whole. But probably this is not the way you want to share. So I'm going to actually close out of here. I'm not actually going to do any sharing from this screen. If I go back to my home page, I have this new voice thread that I've created, and hopefully you've all imported video and you've done some commenting, so you've created a voice thread as well. I'm actually going to close this down now. I'm going to remember I called this guided practice example 2. What you probably want to do is, in most cases, what I suspect you want to do is, say in week 4 of the class, I want to add a link to that voice thread here so that when students get to week 4, they are directed to view that, that voice thread. And so you would add an activity or resource. Again, this is going to be a different flavor of voice thread. And if I click add, I'm going to call this assigned voice thread. Well, I'm going to call this voice thread presentation for you to view. And for this flavor, again, I'm not going to grade on whether the students view it or not. So I'm going to take that off, and there won't be a grade for this in the grade book. I'm going to click save and return to course. And when what week did I put that in? I forgot which. It was right here. So first time I click on it, I'm going to select the option for this to be an individual voice thread that I want showing up there in week 4. So I click individual voice thread. I select the one that I'm put together for my students to look at. It gives me some basic information here, and all I have to do is click share with class. And now the students don't need to know the web address. They don't have to remember, where that was at. They just come into your Moodle course. They click on this link, or you click on the link as the instructor now, and everyone is taken straight here to view the voice thread. And I've got it set up to autoplay. And so students are going to see the first slide here, and they're going to be listening to my talking about it. We don't have time today, but we should be talking about closed captions. We plan to upgrade our VoiceThread account so that every recorded comment that you make on your voice threads and every recorded comment that your students make on your voice threads or their voice threads that are shared with your class are closed captioned by the service at VoiceThread. So this will be less of an issue, but for now, I don't think we've got that set up yet. I actually have to check with the accessibility folks. So that's the easiest way for you to, you've got a VoiceThread already that you've created at your VoiceThread account. This is the easiest way to make sure that your students look at it in week 4. It does not require them to do, it doesn't grade them that they've done it. So let me just quickly show you another option. I'm going to add one more VoiceThread activity, and then I'm going to be done, and we'll deal with whatever questions you all have. And I'm going to call this required VoiceThread viewing. And in this case, I'm going to keep, this is now going to be a graded activity, so I'm going to leave this on as the default. And I'm going to make this worth 10 points. Or maybe I'm going to make it worth 5 points. And click save and return to course. And now when I click on this for the first time, I've got 4 options to choose from. I've got the 3 that we saw before, and we didn't talk about course view, but this is the one where I'm just pointing them to an individual voice thread. Here's the one that gives me connection to my home space. Assignment Builder, if you click on that, then you've got 3 different assignment options. You can require students to create their own voice thread and submit them to you as a graded assignment. You can require them to view a voice thread you created and make 1, 2, 3, however many comments. Or you can just require that they watch your voice thread from start to finish. So I'm just going to select that option. And again, I'm going to select the same voice thread. And you need to watch this all the way through. And then you make sure that share with class is selected. You can determine whether or not you want students to be able to resubmit the assignment. You click create the assignment. And now let me actually log in as a student. So as a student, I can watch this voice thread, but no one is, there would be a log to note that I started the activity. But with this required voice thread viewing, it'll pop open the voice thread and it will give me the assignment information. And I won't play through the whole thing, but I've tested this. The student actually has to watch the whole thing for them to get the 5 points that the assignment is worth. I've tried as a student to, skip ahead or to, try to fake it out by going to the last slide and hitting play. None of those constitutes viewing the whole voice thread presentation. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and leave because I haven't done everything I need to get the credit for this assignment, and I'll come back to it later. But basically, by setting up the voice thread home, you've got a place to go where you can create your voice threads whenever you've got the slides ready. Just get them into VoiceThread on your home screen, and then decide what week or what topic you want to share them with. Obviously, add in the slides, do your narration, your annotation of the slides, get those all saved and uploaded to your VoiceThread account. And then go back into Moodle and add another VoiceThread activity, and either make it just a link to the VoiceThread presentation if you just want to make it available to your students, or make it a required viewing assignment, and then they have to actually watch through the whole thing in order for the score to be recorded to the Moodle gradebook.
Keith,
Yeah.
do we all have the ability to log into Moodle as a student to
No.
see what it looks like? What? No?
No, not as a specific student the way I did.
Uh-huh.
You can change your role to student role.
Okay. So I can see, I want to see what it looks like to them. Make sure kind of like their setup.
By and large.
Okay.
But you switching to student role will not add you to the roster as a student.
Okay.
And so you won't show up in the gradebook. And so you can look to see what an assignment looks like from a student view.
That's all I want to see.
But you really can't You can't try out the submitting process,
Oh, okay.
right?
Okay.
Unless you went into your participants list and gave yourself the student role as well as the teacher role, which you can do. And then you would be in your course both as teacher and as student. And you would actually show up in the grade book then, which might be kind of weird. But you could submit an assignment to, or you could add a submission to an assignment, and then you could go in and grade yourself. But most faculty just, well, if I want to see what this looks like to a student, I will just switch to student view,
Okay.
switch to student role, and see what it looks like.
Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, okay. So I think, Marie, all the questions in the chat have been answered.
Yep.
Okay. So this has been kind of half guided practice, half me demonstrating, but hopefully you all got into your Voicethread accounts if you weren't there before. And you went through the process of uploading media to start a Voicethread and have played around a little bit with the commenting, the narrating and annotating functions of adding comments. So again, some just general principles. Recorded comments are probably more valuable than webcam comments, and especially if you have bandwidth issues of your own at home. If you turn on your webcam and talk about a slide for 15 minutes and then hit save, that's going to be a big chunk of data to upload as well. And I know that some faculty have had trouble with things timing out. And generally, it's the other thing you want to think about when you're doing these kind of pre-recorded mini lectures as compared to giving a lecture in class is that you don't want to do an hour-long Voicethread, right? Even if you have a presentation that would normally take you an hour to do in class, I would take a look at that and say, okay, how can I break that up into separate chunks and do a separate Voicethread for each of those chunks? Where are the natural breakpoints in this hour-long lecture that I was giving in my face-to-face class? That way I can put them up in smaller, more manageable, bite-sized pieces for my students. And you don't get the problems with students zoning out because you're trying to have them listen to an hour-long lecture. So I'm going to stop the recording.